You know what? I just want to say, I love my friends. Some of my family members, I love them too. But no matter how much I love you, I don't love you enough to take the rap for your crimes and go to jail. I am sorry. That is not in me. I am not strong enough. That's why I'm gonna have to say the main character in this book I'm about to tell you about is a whole lot stronger than I am because he was able to take the rap for one of his friends and take the punishment for it, and that is just not me. So the book I'm gonna tell you all about today is called Invisible Sun, and it's by Kim Johnson. It starts off with the main character, Andre. He's just coming back from a juvenile facility, and he's been put on what they're calling community monitoring. Basically, he's on house arrest. He's got the whole ankle monitor thing. He has to have community service hours. He has a curfew. He has to be home by, I believe they said it was like 9 o'clock. So he's coming back, and this is supposed to be his senior year of high school. So he wants to finish doing whatever he has to do from the center, and he wants to get back into school and just become a normal kid again. But it's a whole lot that he has to deal with trying to be this normal kid again. The main thing about the book is the whole time he's trying to figure out one, why he was being set up for the crime he was being set up, which kind of confused me, and I'll talk about that a little later. But he also realizes that his friend Eric, which is the guy that he took the rap for, is missing, and he wants to figure out why is he missing and where is he, and is he hiding because he's afraid that when Andre got out, Andre is going to beat him up, or if it's a whole situation where he was just in hiding because he did other crimes and he was trying to hide the other crimes so that Andre wouldn't take the blame for him. So Andre just goes around trying to figure that out. Now Andre has to go back to his grandparents' house. That's where he's supposed to finish his community monitoring program. And across the street is where Eric is, where he lives, along with his brothers and sisters. Now, the people that live across the street, they've adopted Eric and Eric's biological sister named Sierra, I believe her name was. And then they also adopted another little boy, but they already had two biological kids. So the story just goes on where you find out that Eric, along with another friend, they would go to parties and they would steal things, basically rob the parties while they're attending the parties and take all this stuff and hide the stuff just for the thrill of it. Because Eric and the friend, they come from these rich, affluent families and they just want the thrill of it all. Andre knows what's happening, he knows they do it, but he was never a part of it. So you find out how Andre ends up going to juvie is he was at a party with them, and like I say, he knows that they steal, but of course he wasn't part of it. It was Eric, their friend Andre, and Eric's sister Sierra. And Eric and their friend, I can't remember his name. I think his name was like Gavin or something. I can't remember. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm very terrible with names. So they were at this party and they ended up stealing stuff at the party. Well, when they were stealing stuff at the party, the homeowner found out that his son had this party and that stuff was missing. So he went to the police. And when he went to the police, that's when they started looking at Eric and the other boy because Eric was adopted into this family, and Andre knew like his history of before he got adopted, how he was poor and how his mother was alcoholic and all these things like that. He decided to take the rap and say that he did it. So when he wanted to tell the truth, it was a little bit too late because they ended up going to his Andre's locker. Andre used to work at a pool. So when they went to the locker, they found this book bag of stolen goods. In the book bag was like a laptop, costume jewelry, and stuff like that. So he ended up getting the blame for that. So the story goes on, and he's trying to find Eric and he's trying to acclimate himself back into life. You know, he had this big crush on Eric's sister Sierra, so he's trying to continue whatever they had. He's talking to the neighbors, the kids, and like, well, where's Eric? And everybody's like, well, he probably ran away because one day he just called our parents and said he wasn't coming back. He ran away. Our parents told us that. And so he started questioning that because it was like, that doesn't make sense. It was like, as close as he is with his biological sister, that does not make sense for him to just run away and leave her there. So he gets to asking questions, more questions, and he's like, well, Sierra, did they do a missing report? She was like, I guess. He's like, well, did you talk to anybody? Did the police come? Did you talk to the police? Has anybody from like CPS or anybody came? She was like, no. He was like, well, and like I said, they have two biological kids, and their oldest son, I think his name was Brian or Brandon, I can't remember. But he was like, so when insert older kid's name. When he went missing for prom, he didn't come back till the next day. What happened? And she was like, well, my dad called the police and they said they couldn't do anything and he wasn't having it. Said, but he didn't do the same thing for Eric. She was like, no, he didn't. So he starts doing his own investigation and he finds one of the foster parents that used to foster Sierra and Eric. And they live on this farm. Eric and Sierra really thought that they were going to get adopted by these people, but they didn't get adopted by them. They ended up getting adopted by this other family that they live with now. So he believes that Eric may be there, so he contacts the people by, I think it was Instagram. He found their Instagram and he sent a DM to them through Instagram. And the lady answered back and she was like, yeah, no, Eric isn't with me. I really can't get involved with him missing. He was here, but I had to tell his parents he was here and they came and took him. So he tries to get more information and she really won't give him that much more information. She gives him what she can. So he's like, okay, well, we got to find Eric. There's a moment where all the kids are gone and the father is gone. And the mother calls him over because, oh, I forgot to mention that this book is set in 2020. So a lot of the stuff that happened in real life, COVID, the BLM protests, all the marches, all that stuff is in this book. The kids are out of the house because they're attending one of the BLM protests. So the mother calls him over and she's like, oh, keep me company. So he goes over there, him and the mother having a conversation. He like blows up on the mother. The mother is like, you know what? I'm going to bed. Just lock up. When you leave, I'm going to sleep. So the mother leaves and goes upstairs. He waits a little bit. He was going to walk out the house, but he was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and do some investigation. He goes to Eric's old room and he opens the door. He's like, there's nothing in here anymore. It's like all Eric's stuff is gone. He's looking around as much as he can and he hears footsteps and someone's about to come into Eric's room. So he books it into the closet to hide. And everybody always hides in the closet. He's in the closet. Eric's father comes in. And he's just hiding. He's waiting for Eric's father to leave. And as he's in the closet, he decides to do a little investigation in the closet. And there's like this top shelf that's in the closet. So he reaches his hands up. He finds this box. And there's a lot of stuff in the box that Eric left behind. It's like mementos and letters and things like that, necklaces, all these things like that Eric owned. So he has a conversation with Sierra about it. He was like, yeah, this happened. She was like, oh, but this doesn't make sense that he would leave this stuff. I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. Oh, I forgot to mention, he also did some extra snooping in the father's office. He got to this cabinet, and when he opened up the filing cabinet, he saw all these different like brochures for different schools. And so he's thinking, okay, well, they must have sent him to one of these private schools. So he takes pictures of everything and he ends up showing these pictures to Sierra. And she was like, so you really think he's at these private schools? It's like, yeah, he has to be at one of them. So Sierra's like, I'm going to figure out if he's there. She ends up calling and pretending to be the mother. And she finds out that, yeah, he in fact was registered at one of the schools. But because he never came to the school, they gave the family a refund. So they're like, this doesn't make sense. Eric just disappeared. This makes absolutely no sense. We need to figure out what happened to Eric. Now, I don't want to go into any more detail because I'm afraid I'll spoil it. But I am just going to tell you, by the time you get to the end of the book, you do find out why he was set up, who set him up. You find out what happened to Eric, where Eric is, and you also find out about a big cover-up that happened. And he ended up being a casualty of this cover-up. I really did enjoy this book. I gave it like a 3.75. I don't think it's a bad grade. Like, I don't think it's a bad rating. The reason I didn't rate it any higher is because, yes, even though he was set up, it's just like they tried to make it seem like he was just set up from the beginning. But I'm like, you literally took the rap on purpose. You made the decision to lie for Eric so that Eric wouldn't get sent to jail or to juvie. You chose that. It just so happened that the stuff that was stolen got put into your locker, but he didn't even get taken to jail because of what was in the locker. Something else I got on my nerves about the book is Sierra. That's Eric's sister, and she's Andre's love interest. There's a couple things that she was doing, and they were trying to talk her out of it, or the way she would react to certain things, and they were trying to like keep her level-headed. But she just didn't want to hear it. She got very aggravating in the book. And then there's a situation that happened between Andre and Eric's adopted sister. You find out that there was a party that was supposed to be going on, and he was actually supposed to be hooking up with Sierra. But the adopted sister went into the room he was in, and she kind of assaulted him. And she was like, oh, it's all cool. And he was like, no, it's not. You literally sexually assaulted me. And she was like, oh, but we're friends. He was like, no, we're not. I'm not getting over how you assaulted me that time. I don't care if you just kissed me. I didn't want you touching me. And she kept trying to be like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. And he's like, no, it's not okay. So he had to also deal with that. But I mean, even though there was a lot of stuff that I didn't like, there was a whole lot of stuff that I did like. The relationship between him and his grandparents, the relationship between him and his best friend. I really enjoyed seeing that part. It was nice to see how he was trying to navigate and get life as normal as he possibly could. And that even though people wanted to put this stigma about him because they knew he did these things, they knew he was on house arrest, they knew this, they were kind of treating him different. And he was still trying to show people, look, I understand you have this stigma about me, but I'm still the same person. I really didn't do what you think I did. I made a stupid decision and a stupid choice, but he was still trying to be the best him that he always was and become a better version of himself, no matter what he had to go through by people knowing what he did or what they thought he did. You know, like I say, it was an enjoyable book. And the author has another book. I believe it's called This Is My America. I have that book, so hopefully I'll be able to get to that book pretty soon. I know this was a quick review, but it's just so much in this book that happens that I did not want to spoil, because when you read it and you uncover yourself, if I was to tell you what happened, it'll kind of take away from the book, and I didn't want that to happen just in case you decide to read it. What I want to say, as always, thank you for listening to me rant about another book that I read. Always remember that reading is a journey, and it is always up to you on how far you want to take this journey. And until I have another book to tell you about, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.